Juskewycz here with Daily Fantasy Winners, another edition of Tee to Green here. And so we're moving on to the second event in Hawaii, the second of two events, I should say, in Hawaii. This one's over on Oahu, and this is the Sony Open at Wailea Country Club. And this is the second event here before we move over to the mainland, before the events over in California and Arizona. There are 150 players in the Sony Open, and so we will be having a cut again now, starting with a more traditional PGA Tour event. And one other thing I want to point out here before I actually get into the details of this tournament is that there will very likely be a secondary cut at this tournament, and I bring this up already because I've gotten this question a lot on Twitter in the past, and I wanted to address it right now. I always hear this as, what is a secondary cut? So everyone knows what the cut is. In the general, everyone thinks it's just, you take the top half of the field after Friday's round, and that's who gets to play on Saturday and Sunday. That's for the most part true, but it's a little bit more detailed than that. What it is it's the top 70 players plus ties for traditional PGA Tour events. And so what happens is when you have a lot of people that tie for that last mark above the cut line, you can get a lot more than 70 players. So what'll happen is the rule is if there's more than 78 players that tie for that are the top 70 plus ties. So if there are basically more than 8 players that tie for that last spot, what they'll do is after Saturday's round, after 54 holes, is they'll have the secondary cut, which is they apply the same thing, top 70 plus ties, and then if there are a bunch of people that tie again on Saturday for that final spot, then so be it. But usually you're going to lose a handful of people when you have a bunch of people that tie for that last spot, because they're all going to shoot different scores on Saturday. So in any case, I remember, and I bring this up because last year this was a very popular topic, and everyone wondered why Hideki Matsuyama didn't play on Sunday's round. Well, he was somebody that barely made the cut on Friday. He shoots a 2 over 72 on Saturday. Didn't end up playing Sunday's round because he missed the secondary cut. So just something to keep an eye on to make sure your golfers are all going to get to play 72 holes. You need to make it through Friday and most likely Saturday. It's not a guaranteed thing that there will be a secondary cut here, but usually when you have 150 players and this wide range of players in a field, you're going to get a lot of people jam-packed in the middle. So it is very likely that it will happen. Okay, so Wailea Country Club. This is a par 70 that tips out at 7,044 yards. Not the longest course in the world. It is a par 70, but still, it's not a very long course. This is not a bomber's course really at all. There are 2 par 5s. They are holes 9 and 18. And so hole 9 and 18 are both very much eagle holes. Oops, that's hole 8. Hole 9, 506-yard par 5. It is about as straightforward as can be. There is not a lot to this hole. This is, quite frankly, this would be a par 4 in the U.S. Open. You will see about 25 eagles here this weekend. That's about how many eagles we get here per year. Pretty much that's straightforward. The second par 5, hole 18, 551 yards. Doesn't quite play that long because it is a dogleg left. There's a little more character to this hole, but again, a very easy eagleable hole. You'll probably see about 15 eagles or so on this hole over the course of the 4 rounds. And then hole 10 is a drivable par 4. We can take a very quick look at it if you're just looking for an interesting hole or fun one to look at for the Bombers. 351 yards. Some players have. We usually get like 1 or 2 eagles here a year, and sometimes those even just come in on chip-ins. But once in a while, a bomber does hit the front of the green and is able to putt it in for eagle. But it's extremely rare, and I would not be strategizing towards this one at all. Just more for your TV viewing pleasure. In any case, that is it as far as the course goes, but I'm going to go ahead and dive right into the picks. I've got 3 top picks. I've got 3 mid-tier salary picks as far as some guys that I really think that have a very good chance of making the cut and even have a legit shot at winning the golf tournament. I'm going to give you 1 sleeper pick as well. First top pick is Brandt Snedeker. Snedeker was somebody that was not too happy about missing those 2 cuts to start off, or I shouldn't say to start off, but as you see, the Shriners and the RSM Classic was not too thrilled about that. And so very unusual for Brandt because he is somebody that really takes advantage of the weaker fields. He is very good on the West Coast typically. And so in any case, he has been working extremely hard on his game throughout the holidays. He got to Kapalua very early, was working hard there. As you can see, he finished tied for third there. And quite frankly, I think he played better than that. He lipped out several putts that we saw on television, and he had just quite frankly, a lot of good putts that didn't go in. And I think Snedeker is definitely primed for a very good beginning of 2016. And here at the Sony Open, where not a weak, I won't call it a weak field, but it is it's average at best, though, too, at the same time. It's a very average field with 150 players, and, the top players are Jimmy Walker, Kevin Kisner, Zach Johnson, some guys like that. So again, we're not getting the very top shelf top players in the world type of a deal here. As far as the official world golf rankings are concerned. So Snedeker is somebody I think that has as good a shot to win this tournament as anyone in this field, and I think he's as pretty much as sure of a bet as there is to make the cut. The second top pick I have next is we're actually going to move pretty far down the list here, and we're going to take a quick look at David Lingmerth. Lingmerth, somebody who's already made all 4 cuts that he's played in this year. But more importantly, he's somebody that had 7 top 20s last season. He had 3 top 10s, and they were all against really good fields. And as you guys may remember, he won the Memorial Tournament in the playoff against Justin Rose. David Lingmerth is a very good player. He's rising right into the beginning part of the prime of his game. Prime of his life, quite frankly. And so, probably actually, I will even say the most important aspect is that he does well on courses that do not promote driving distance. He is not the longest hitter in the world, but he is very good tee to green when he is not competing on the beast tracks, if you will. And so, with that, Lingmerth is definitely somebody I think at 7,600 who is extremely good value. And then the last top pick I have is, and a lot of people forget about this guy, is Steve Stricker at 7,200. He has not played yet this year, and he is somebody that played a very condensed schedule last year. And a lot of people, they didn't really hear Stricker's name much last season, and most people think he had a terrible year. Well, it obviously wasn't a banner year by any means of the imagination, but he only missed 2 cuts, and 7,200 is extremely good for somebody who makes nearly every cut of any tournament he usually plays in. Stricker is certainly one of more of the shorter hitters, but of course, like I just said, Waialae Country Club, not the longest course in the world. Stricker hasn't played the Sony Open in a few years, but he has played at the Sony Open a lot, has fared very well, has several top 10s, and Stricker is certainly somebody that I think is by far your best bet as far as somebody making the cut at 7,200. Heck, he's probably still a sleeper there to get to top 20, maybe even top 10 if you're lucky. As far as 3 guys, I will say, that are mid-tier salary price players that I certainly think you should use in GPPs, Danny Lee, Ryan Palmer, and Tony Finau. All guys that are pretty much playing well as of late, finished the end of the 2014-15 season on a very strong note, and I think that all 3 of them are definitely capable of winning this golf tournament. Ryan Palmer's even a former winner here at Waialae. Now, as far as the sleeper pick, if you go back to my 2015 article on the Sony Open, you'll notice that I had Justin Thomas as one of my top picks. I was very high on him then. And if you might think of where Justin Thomas is at $10,800, you would think, yeah, he was probably, maybe a $7,500 golfer, then maybe $7,000 at the best, right? He was actually $5,600 in that field. He was one of the cheapest golfers available. Absolutely remarkable. Now, is there somebody this year as good as Justin Thomas as far as his value goes? Probably not. And by the way, Justin Thomas, just for the record, he did finish tied for 6th at the Sony Open in that tournament. So when I say there isn't somebody as good as Thomas was last season as far as the value and where he'll finish, I'm setting the bar at a pretty high mark when I say that. So there is somebody, though, that I do think that has a great shot at making the cut and maybe making a top 20 appearance on the leaderboard by the end of Sunday. And that guy is Brett Stegmeyer. He's 6,100. He was somebody that, quite frankly, seems to get his hands on any tournament he can. And this is a name that probably nobody, when I say nobody, I mean very few people have heard of. And he is somebody that dominated the Web.com tour. When I say dominated, several top 10s at the very end of the 2015 portion of the Web.com tour season. He was somebody that was pretty inconsistent, actually, in the beginning part of the year, but he completely turned the corner once we got to the middle to the end of August, and he started rattling off top 10s. And all of a sudden, he's on the PGA Tour now, who started off the 2015-16 portion of the season, who has made every cut he's played in so far. He's already 5 for 5 on cuts made. And so this is not the exact blueprint that Justin Thomas had coming into the Sony Open of 2015, but I will say there are some similarities in terms of somebody who turned a corner, got hot at the right time, and just seems to build on it. And I think if you're looking for somebody that's going to be maybe as low as 2% owned in this field, maybe even less than that, might even be as low as 1%. If you're looking for that guy that might be that hidden gem as far as a GPP lineup, and you're looking to get some variety in there, and maybe even somebody that just does happen to give you that top 20 and shoots a few rounds in the mid to upper 60s, I think Stegmeyer is one of your best bets. And that is actually one last thing here is our PGA odds per dollar page again is being updated. That is updated every Monday night or Tuesday morning. So as you can see, if you go to the fantasy tools, you click on PGA odds per dollar. And well, it's just reloading here. This is the odds per dollar page right here. So if you want to see who has the best odds per dollar from the against the Vegas odds versus DraftKings salary, you can go right there and take a look. And that will wrap up this edition of Tee to Green with Nick Juskewycz. Quick reminder to like and subscribe our Twitch and YouTube page. And then you can, of course, follow and tweet to me at Nick Juskewycz, and, of course, at DailyFantasyWinners as well for DailyFantasyWinners.com.